boys and girls, it's Mrs. Smiley. How are you today? I hope you're having a good day and I'm finding you in the green zone. It was such a pretty weekend and the beginning to the week, so I'm going to read you a little story and it goes with Unit 2, What is in the Sky? And we've talked a lot about a lot of different things that are in the sky, and you've heard a lot of different vocabulary words that go with this unit, so hopefully you've been using some of those at home too. This story is called How Day and Night Were Divided. So I'm going to read the story. It's a listening story. So you can just get comfy just like we do in class and get ready to listen. And I want you to break this story up when we're done reading it into the beginning, into the middle, and the end. So you might want to think of that as I'm reading the story. Okay, this sounds like the beginning. Okay, now I think we're in the middle. There's the end. And then when you are all done, you can draw your picture in 3 parts. So you could draw the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then you can write some sentences to go with each part. So I would love it if you'd post those on Google Classroom. Those are so fun for me to see your writing. I'm missing your writing so much. So let me go ahead and start our story. It's called How Day and Night Were Divided. Okay, so put your listening ears on. Here we go. And you'll have to let me know, do you think this is a fiction story, phony, baloney, make-believe, or do you think it's nonfiction, real? Okay, here we go. The animals in the forest had all gathered in a big clearing in the trees, and they were having a meeting to decide how to divide the day and the night. I think it should be day all the time, said the deer. That way I can browse and eat all day long. Many other daytime animals, they agreed with deer, and they thought this was a great idea for it to be daytime all day long. I think it should be night all the time, said Owl. That way I can hunt all night long. Many nighttime animals agreed with Owl. They thought it would be best if it was always nighttime. The animals tried and tried, but they could not figure out a way to solve their disagreement. Now, boys and girls, remember, a disagreement is when people don't agree. So maybe they're having an argument. Okay? So they tried and tried, but they could not figure out a way to solve their disagreement. Finally, they decided to ask Bear. Bear was the biggest animal in the forest, so he ruled all the others. Bear thought and he thought, but no matter how hard he thought, he could not think of a way to solve this problem. Bear may have been big, but this problem was way too big for him to solve. I have an idea, said Squirrel. You have an idea, laughed Deer and Owl. You are so small. How could you solve such a big problem? Even Bear could not solve it. Well, let us listen to Squirrel, said Bear. He told the others. He may be small, but he has big thoughts. Then Bear turned to Squirrel. How can we solve this problem, Squirrel? Squirrel pointed to Raccoon. Do you see the rings on Raccoon's tail? Yes, the other animal said. Did you notice how the rings on Raccoon's tail are divided evenly? Yes, replied the other animals. Did you notice that his tail is first a dark color and then a light color? Said the squirrel. Yes, said the other animals. Well, then we should divide day and night just like the rings on Raccoon's tail, said Squirrel. First there will be day, and then there will be night. All of the other animals were impressed with the squirrel's idea. Squirrel may be little, they said, but he does have big thoughts. And so from that time on, night and day were divided evenly, just like the rings on Raccoon's tail. It is that way even now. So think for just a second. Do you think the animals decided if we were going to have day and night and how to divide it? Do you think in real life that's what happened? Probably not. So is this a fiction story or nonfiction? Yep, I think you probably got that one right. It's a fiction story. So I think you were probably really good listeners when we read it, but it was kind of a surprise because the animals couldn't decide. And so who's the first character they went to and they asked to help them solve their problem? I hope you said Bear. And they went to Bear because he was kind of their leader. He was the biggest animal. And so they went to Bear to solve the problem. But Bear tried really hard and he couldn't solve it. So, so who did they go to solve the problem? Who was the next person who wanted to help solve the problem? I hope the next character that you picked was Squirrel. He said, well, I can solve the problem. And they made fun of him, didn't they? They laughed at him. And it hurts our feelings when somebody laughs at us when we are really just trying to help or to share. So they weren't being very good friends, were they? Owl and Deer were not very nice when they laughed at Squirrel. But who was the character that stood up for Squirrel and said, you know, Squirrel is small, but he has big ideas? Who was that character who was a good friend to Squirrel and stood up for him? I bet you got that right. It was Bear, wasn't it? Bear said he's small, but he has big ideas. And how did Squirrel solve this big problem? He talked about Raccoon, didn't he? He talked about the raccoon's tail, and he told everybody there was a pattern on Raccoon's tail. It was dark then light, dark then light, and that's how we should separate our day, to dark and light, day and night, or night and day. So that was a really fun story. I hope you liked it, and I hope you learned a little bit about these characters. It was a fiction story. It was a fun story. It kind of reminds me of some of the Indian stories that they used to tell. They used a lot of animals to describe why things happened in nature. So it has a little bit of that Indian storytelling in it too. So now would be a great time. Find a piece of paper and get out your crayons and your pencils. And I want you to draw on your paper 3 different pictures. One showing me the beginning. They've got this problem and they're arguing. One showing the middle where they're all talking together and trying to solve that problem. And remember who helped them the most. And then draw the end. What did they finally come up with? What was their plan to solve their problem? Okay, and then you can write a couple sentences. You can write a couple sentences to go with each one. Okay, thank you for being such great listeners today, boys and girls. I really miss you, but I know you're doing a great job. I love seeing all your work on Google Classroom. Make sure you get on there and get those worksheets done and then hit work done so it'll come to me and I can see it and I can send you little notes too, okay? Bye, guys. Do some great drawing and writing today.